So we are going to start with labeling the different parts of this paper. As you can see here, this is going to be my center front, this is going to be the side front, the side back, and my center back. This is going to be my shoulder line. I'm going to label it later, and then my half length will be somewhere. So from my measurements, my half length is 16.5. I love using my my ruler because I feel it gives me a more accurate measurement. So first thing I'm going to be doing is from the edge of my paper, I'm going to be taking my half length measurement, which is 16.5. That's for the front half length. Remember, the front half length and the back half length is different because of the breast. So this is 16.5, and you try to measure in two places. This is so that you can get a straight line. If you measure in one place, it will be very difficult for you to get a straight line. So try and measure in two places so you get a straight line. So we are going to be doing the front and the back pattern simultaneously. So this is my front half length, 16.5, and my back half length is 14 inches. 14 inches. So we are going to come here. This is our back pattern part. This is 14 inches. So like I said earlier, you'll be taking in two places. Mark the measurements in two places so that you'll be able to get a very straight line. So that's for the back pattern. Now the difference between the front and the back pattern is 2.5 inches. 2.5 inches. So we are going to have that at the back of our mind because we are going to be using it while drafting this pattern. So now we are going to be taking if you watched my my taking measurements video, you see where I categorize the measurements into vertical and horizontal measurements. So I'm going to first of all take my vertical measurements, mark them out before tackling the horizontal measurements. So my vertical measurements here are my shoulder to bust point, my shoulder to under bust, and of course my half length, which I've already taken. So my shoulder to bust point is, from my measurement here, I think I have this handy. My shoulder to bust point here is 10, and my shoulder to under bust is 13. So 13.5, sorry, 13.5. Remember, always marking 2 points so you get a straight line. 10 and 13.5. So we rule a straight line. This is my shoulder to bust point, shoulder to under bust. Then the next measurement I want to take is my shoulder measurement. And because this is a half block, this is not like a full block. Any horizontal measurement that just runs once through the body will be divided by 2, and if it is a horizontal measurement that runs round the body, we divide by 4, because this is just one part of the body we are working with. So for the shoulder is 14. Half shoulder would be 14 divided by 2 will give us 7, and here we have 7 just at the shoulder line. Then to get our armhole, you first take your shoulder slope, and I like taking a 1 inch for my shoulder slope. Here my shoulder slope is 1 inch. I just come down by 1 inch from the tip of the paper. You come down by 1 inch. Then the next thing you want to do is to take your armhole, and for my armhole, I do my bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. That is if I'm going to be having a sleeve for this basic bodice block. But if I'm not going to be having a sleeve, if it's going to be a sleeveless, I like doing bust divided by 6 plus 0.75. Just have that at the back of your mind. So for this, we just take it that we are having a sleeve, so we'll do bust divided by 6 plus 1.5, and here my bust is 36. 36 divided by 6 will give us 6 plus 1.5, that's 7.5. So just from the slope line, we take a 7.5. We'll take 7.5. That's where our sleeve is going to stop. So remember to mark in two places. Remember to mark in two places. You know, when you start from the tip of the paper, is now going to give you an 8.5 because of the initial 1 inch slope we took. So this is like going to be our chest line, and also where our armhole is going to stop. We do the same thing for the back. You take your shoulder 7 inches for the shoulder. You come down by 1 inch slope. Come down by 1 inch slope, and there you have it. So the next thing we are going to do is just draw an imaginary line. I like to use a faint. You draw an imaginary line. Yeah, I'll be using my pen because it's a line I'm eventually not going to be needing. So I'll just use my pen, or you can use a pencil so that you can erase at the end of the day. Use my pen, draw my line. So after that, next thing we want to do is draw our neck depth and our neck width. For this tutorial, I'm going to be using a 3 inches for my neck width. 3 inches for my neck width. Then for my neck depth, I use a 3.5, although there's a calculation for it, and that calculation is dividing your bust by 12. Whatever it gives you is what you use. But because I don't like it choking, that's if you're making a high neck clothes. I don't like it choking, so I just come down by extra ½ inch. Bust divided by 12 should give me 3 inches, but I do use 3.5 in this case. And the next thing I want to do is draw using my French curve. I link the two ends together to get my neck, and with this I can now draw my shoulder slope. This is my shoulder slope. Do the same thing for the back, but instead of using a 3.5 inch neck depth, I'll use a 1.5 inch neck depth for the back. So this is my neck depth, 1.5, and my neck width, you have to use the same neck width, 3 inches, and then I'll just link it with my French curve. And then you draw your shoulder slope. Next thing we are going to be doing here is to draw our armhole. And for the armhole, because you don't want it to have a bulge at the armpit or around the armhole, we are going to be finding the midpoints of the armhole width. We find the midpoint. Remember, we took 7.5. Midpoint of 7.5 is going to give us around 3.75, and this is the midpoint. So from that midpoint, we are going to come in by 1 inch. 1 inch. So this is the point I'm trying to make here, 1 inch. So what we want to do now is to link this point to this point, and then a curve that will rest on the chest line with our French curve. Remember, if you can't link it with your French curve, you can always use your hand if you're good at drawing. So you see, yeah, it works perfectly. I link here to here. I think I'm going to have to change markers now. So you see, I've linked from my shoulder tip to this midpoint here, and then resting on my chest line. So give me my front armhole. So now we are going to be doing the same thing for the back with a very little difference. So all I just want to do is find the midpoint of the back, find the midpoint here, and then instead of going in by 1 inch, we'll go in by 0.5 inches. Why? Because the back span is wider than that of the front. You know, we have a wider back than the front, so we are just going to go in by 0.5 inches, then link just like we did for the front. We link the shoulder tip to that point, and then to the chest line to get our back armhole. So there you have it, armhole for the back and armhole for the front. So now we are going to be coming into the bodice, inside the bodice. Remember, this is our shoulder to bust point, shoulder to under bust, and then this is our half length. So now what we want to do is get our bust to bust point measurement, and our bust to bust point measurement is 8 inches. So remember, I said any horizontal measurement that just goes once across the body should be divided into two. So 8 divided by 2 will give us 4 inches. So we'll come to the bust line, shoulder to bust point, and then we'll just mark our 4 inches. And what you want to do is mark these 4 inches down to the waistline. Like I said, this is the easiest way, or for me, one of the easiest way of pattern drafting. More like you're doing a freehand, but it's giving you an accurate pattern drafting instead of using the rigorous type of pattern drafting. So now what we are going to do is take our dart allowance. That's whatever we're going to be removing for the darts. What we are going to do is to take it, and I usually use 1.5 inches for my dart. Ideally, you're supposed to bring out 1.5 inches divided by 2 will give you 0.75. Ideally, you're supposed to bring out 0.75 on both sides of this line, but because I don't want the two dart points at the end of the day, like while sewing, I don't want the two dart points to be very close together. I'll try to space it apart. So instead of sharing 0.5 inches on both sides of the line, all I'll just do is take 0.5. Instead of making it 0.75 on both sides, I'll just take 0.5 on the center front part, and then 1 inch on the side front part. That way it kind of separates my two darts and makes them wider apart instead of them being close together. So I do the same thing for the under bust level. Come here by 0.5, come here by 1. So what I want to do here is to join these 2 points together. And then with my French cuff, I link that point using my French cuff. This is how you place your French cuff. I link this point to the bust point and link this other point. So remember, what we took out here is 1.5. So when we are doing our measurements for the waistline, we are going to be adding it back. So waistline here is 27. 27 divided by 4 will be giving us 6.75. So what we'll do is 6.75 plus 1.5. 6.75 plus 1 is giving us 7.75, plus 1.5 will give us 8.25. So here you have it, 8.25. Then we get the bust line. The bust measurement is 36. 36 divided by 4 will give us 9. So what I do here is I'm going to add a half inch. The reason why I add this half inch is for ease of sewing, or for ease of movement. Remember, when you're taking your bust measurement, is either the person's hands are up or down, and usually the measurement differs by at least 0.5 inch difference whenever the person's hands are up. So you have to put that into consideration. So I've taken the bust ease, and the next thing we are going to do is to link that point, which I've already done. Link the waistline to the bust, and then just extend it to the armhole level. We are going to be taking the round under bust tightening. For my round under bust here, I have 28 inches, and what we are going to be doing here is ignoring this other parts of the bodice. Remember, it's going to be cut off. So what we are going to be doing here is take the measurement from here to here. It's giving me 3.5. So I'll just continue from where I stopped. That's 3.5 28 inches divided by 4 is giving me 7, gives us 7, and this is where 7 is. So what you want to do is just take your measuring tape or ruler and measure the remaining thing here. From here to here is about ½ inch. So what we'll do now is come into the bodice, that's along this under bust line, and eliminate ½ inch. You can decide to take the whole ½ inch on this part, or you can divide it 0.25. What it does is it tightens the under bust and helps the bust stay in place without the person feeling loose. So what I'm going to do is take 0.25 on both sides of this and then relink this to the bust point. So this is now going to be our new cup. Link this and then link and then draw this to join at the waistline. So there you have it. Next thing we are going to be doing is linking. Remember, this is a princess armhole princess that bust here pattern. This is what we are doing now. Armhole princess that. So what we want to do is link this to the armhole, but remember there's going to be a tightening around here. So for the tightening, what we want to do is, what I usually do is I just place my French curve. Different body shapes will give you different curve. So for this particular one, I just place my French curve and see where it leads me. You get? So for this, I'll just link it to wherever it leads me, and then I'll go up by 1 inch. From this point here, I'll go up by 1 inch, and then with a straight rule, I'll just link it to wherever it meets the curve. With this now, I've been able to eliminate this excess. While sewing the cloth is going to give me a perfect tightening at the armhole. So the next thing now I want to do is redraw my armhole. You know, because this is a more like a sharp curve, while sewing there's a tendency for it to pull. So instead of this point meeting with this point while sewing, this point tends to shorten. So what you do is extend it with at least 1 inch, but I'm going to be doing a 1.25 inches or 1.5. If you have an excess, you can always trim off. 1.5. So this is going to be my new armhole, and there you have it. So after that, remember the difference between the front and the back half length is 2.5. So what you're going to do is, from this bust line at the side front, remember these are new side fronts, from this bust line at the side front, you come down by 2.5. From here to here is 2.5 inches. That's the difference between the front and the back, because the implication of not removing the 2.5 is that the front will be longer than the back. Remember, this is going to be like our side back. So see, if you measure it, the front is going to be 2.5 inches longer than the back. So what we want to try to do is to eliminate it and then give the bust part a better cup. So now we are going to eliminate it. We've come down by 2.5. So for extra tightening, this whole portion here is going to be off. This portion is going to go off. This portion is going to go up, and then this other portion is going to go off. So while cutting our cloth, there's a tendency for it to shorten around here. So what we do here is just add a little extra so that when we are joining this piece to this piece, there won't be any shortening. So there you have it. This is the front part of this basic armhole princess that's bodice. So let's come to the back and tackle it. For the back, remember the center of your back is not as straight as a plank. There's a slight curve that leads to your bum area. So for that center part, instead of just following the straight part of this book or of this pattern paper, we are going to be coming in by say 1 inch. I like doing 1 inch. Some people do 0.75, but I think 1 inch gives me a better curve and a better fit at the back. So what you now want to do after coming in by 1 inch is to draw and link to the neckline. You draw this and link to the neckline. So now this is now your new center back. Instead of this other straight line, this is now this slanty line is your new center back. So for the center, for the bust area of the center back, what you want to do is come here and do 36 divided by 6. 36 divided by 4, 36 divided by 4, and then you add your 0.5 inches just for ease of movement. So 36 divided by 4 will give us 9 inches plus half 9.5 just along this bust area, 9.5. Then the next thing you want to do is take your waist measurement and then eliminate your dart. So for the back dart, the allowance is going to be 1 inch. So what we'll do here is waist divided by 4 plus 1 inch, which we are still going to be eliminating from the middle of the back. So your waist divided by 4, my waist divided by 4, 27 divided by 4 will give me 6.75 plus 1 inch, which is going to be 7.75. So remember, I'm not starting from here to take my measurement. I'm starting from the new back line to take my measurement. So 6.75 plus 1 is going to give us 7.75, and there you have it. And all I'm going to do is just link the 2 points together. There you have it. Then remember, we added our dart allowance. For the purpose of this tutorial, I just like taking the middle of my bodies, my back bodies, for my darts. So we just find the midpoint, and the midpoint of 7.75 should be around here, almost at 4. So this is the midpoint. So from that midpoint, all you want to do is just come there and eliminate your 1 inch dart. So there you have it. So now for the dart, remember we're going to be linking it to the armhole of the back. So what you want to do is just come here, take a straight line up, just high enough, like you're approaching, or let's say just take it up to this bust line area, and then link it just like so. This part right here is going to be eliminated to also give you a perfect back lapping, for your back to lap perfectly, or for the back to be well tightened, and helps you eliminate any excess. Then what you want to do is, with your French curve, you just link this point down to the armhole. You can choose to do the midpoint of the armhole. Like I always say, allow your French curve to guide you. I always allow my French curve to guide me. So whatever curve it gives me, I'm fine with it. Next thing you want to do is just create a new, for the back curve, I'll just go higher, an extra 0.5 inches, because it's not such a sharp curve like that of the front. So you just want to go an extra 0.5 inches here, and then from there you create a new armhole to just join here. So there we have it, armhole princess dart, our bodice block for the armhole princess dart. With this, after you might have cut out the different parts and you want to trace on your muslin or calico or whatever, you can always add your allowances as you desire. So that's just what we do.